Let's go! Can Arkansas pull the biggest SEC on SEC upset of the year, beating Alabama? Of course, the game is in Fayetteville. Of course, yes, most of my viewers have been Razorback Nation. You guys are going to be loud and proud, and I know it was a brutal loss last week. I know you really want a College Game Day to make this trip, but I'm telling you, all of my friends from Arkansas are making the trip this weekend. But can Arkansas make this a game and do something that very few SEC teams have done before, which is beat Alabama as a double-digit underdog? Ironically, I think for me, the biggest issue for Arkansas isn't their defense going up against their offense. I do think that does spell trouble for an Arkansas secondary that's really struggled. But college football is an offensive game, right? So you have to know in the modern game that you have to have a great offense. My biggest issue will be the Razorbacks going up against this Alabama defense that right now is performing at an unreal clip, okay? They are only giving up 1.84 yards per rush on the ground, and that is a pretty unprecedented number. Now, we can get into a conversation on the level of competition. I could argue outside of Kentucky and Ole Miss, Alabama has had the most cupcake-friendly schedule. Outside of playing Texas, they have played home games against Utah State, Monroe, and Vanderbilt. So, yes, that's obviously helped out the number, but still, Bijan Robinson is the best running back in college football, and they shut him down. So, for me, this Alabama run defense is just really, really freaking good with Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, and Henry To'oTo'o. So can Kendall Briles continue a really good season as the Razorback play caller? Now, my inbox last week was filled with a lot of you talking about how you didn't like the Hornsby snaps last week, and you didn't like some of the play calling, and you didn't like how Arkansas was failed. They failed to really respond after the lucky 99-yard fumble recovery TD for Texas A&M. And I totally get that. Obviously, that shell-shocked the Razorbacks last week. But the simple truth is this. Kendall's done a good job overall for Arkansas, who to me has had one of the tougher schedules to start the year, with 3 of their first 4 games being Power 5 contests, and obviously a nail-biter-ish kind of game against Missouri State. So this is obviously very, very interesting, this matchup here for Arkansas against Alabama. So, for me, when I look at this game overall, I am concerned about Arkansas, which has been a good offense overall, moving the football against this Alabama defense. And I'm also concerned about this Arkansas secondary against Bryce Young, who is coming off his best game of the year through the air, right? I thought he was really good, and more importantly, it was the best game for Alabama's receivers. They have not been good up to this point, but Ja'Cory Brooks, who is a former 5-star recruit, including this touchdown catch in the back in your background, Ja'Cory Brooks is starting to come along. Trayshawn Holden, and then obviously the transfer Jermaine Burton and Prentice, number 80, is a good player for them as well. So, yes, this is far from Alabama's best wide receiver core in quite some time. In fact, this is probably Saban's worst wide receiver core, but they're still really, really, really talented. And on top of that, what makes it really, really interesting is, for me, I feel as if you look at that Arkansas game last year between these two teams, obviously Arkansas only losing 42-35. That was another game where Jamison Williams really opened that game up for Alabama in a close game. So, for me, I've yet to see Bryce Young have a really, really, really good game without Jamison Williams in the lineup versus a Power 5 opponent. So I do think that is something to keep an eye out for, and a big thing if you are a Razorback fan. Yes, you are very concerned about your secondary, but these receivers, this was Vanderbilt. You got to go out there and prove it against a better team. I'm looking at you Yes, you. Whichever team you support in the Southeastern Conference, I want to show you a bunch of love, including, once again, Razorback Nation. But I want to see fans from all over the SEC, and I want to shout out some people that have been commenting on a lot of our videos. Hoyt, Roby, I love this name right here. Dizzle Twizzle. Wes, Tony, the old vet, Rob G, and many more. I'm going to keep doing channel shout-outs because I feel like it is important when we are building this channel, this community, that I show some love to you guys. That's why the comment section is so important. I try and read every single one of them, and I am going to bring something up about a certain fan base that talked a lot of trash about one of my predictions. And look, they might actually end up being right, but it looks kind of like I'm going to be right. We'll save that for the end. Now, this is what was very interesting to me. I thought Arkansas's offensive line on the rewatch, this was a 5-star loaded Texas A&M defensive line. You know, yes, you had the rough snap at the end, but I think this Arkansas offensive line is going to come out really PO'd from their performance last week. I thought it was fine, but I feel like they could have, or they felt like they could have played better, but physically going up against a defensive line that features a lot of NFL guys to the very next week doing the same thing is a tall order for this group. So we'll see how that actually works out for Arkansas. It should be a really tough matchup against that DL, but this is what I think Arkansas is going to have to do. A lot of misdirection stuff, but their skill guys have got to play better. I think they left. Take a look at this right here. So this honestly is not a hard block at all by Sanders, okay? And these are two high-level top 100 players. Johnson could be the best secondary member in the SEC. We've got to get this block and allow this tight end to get a one-on-one versus this corner. And watch, Landers, I mean, that's just not going to cut it right here. This is not a bad play call on 3rd and 3. And now this tight end's got to worry about beating two guys. It's just really, really bad. Let's just call it what it is. Our breakdown of this screen right here to Jaden Hazelwood, you can see it in the top right corner of your screen. You can also look at our video from earlier in the week about one mistake that SEC teams continue to make, okay? So here's a play right here by Hazelwood. I think he left some yards on the field. If you want to see the breakdown once again, it'll be floating in your face here in just a second. So before I give you one Arkansas versus Alabama prediction, let's actually go through the rest of the SEC. I love South Carolina State to cover the spread here versus South Carolina, but we'll see what happens. Kentucky versus Ole Miss. Kentucky, very interesting spot for them. My favorite play of the week is actually in this game, and you can find it. We did a whole video on Lane Kiffin's controversial comments earlier in the week. That'll be floating in your face in just a second. I really enjoyed that video yesterday. We talked a little bit, did some film breakdown of the Lane offense as well. We move along here to Texas A&M versus Mississippi State. Jimbo is historically a bad road play caller, and it does look interesting that Mississippi State is a favorite. There is some gross overreaction to their loss versus LSU. Mississippi State dropped a lot of passes in that game, and that was also on the back-to-back end of a road game. So I think there is a little bit of overreaction towards Mississippi State. I do think they're still a good team, and for that, I actually like them to win versus Texas A&M. I do think it'll be close, so I would stay away from that. And on the opposite end of this, even though Auburn looks like the worst team in the West, I do think they cover at home versus LSU. And one of my favorite plays of the week, Georgia destroying Missouri on the road. I hate this spot for Missouri. They played bad last week, but Auburn played worse. Missouri deserved to win that game, and they just choked it away. Missouri's a bad football team, and Georgia is a good football team. And don't you think Kirby's going to light a fire under them in a spot last week where they struggled versus Kent State? One of my favorite plays this week is Georgia actually jumping out and covering the first half versus Missouri, who also started slow versus Auburn. So I like Georgia in the first half. with that spread right there as another play for me. So we get to the Arkansas and Alabama game, and you're looking at a stat here from Connor O'Gara on Bryce Young and his struggles on the road. Alabama doesn't win in convincing fashion on the road with Bryce. Very fascinating stuff. And, just over the past couple years, Nick Saban just hasn't blown teams out as he had in years prior. And Saban lost a little bit. It's kind of hard to say that when they've reached a national championship game, but Alabama just has played closer games versus Power 5 competition over the past couple of years. And I do think even though Alabama, with all the advanced metrics and how dominant their defense has been, I do think Arkansas finds a way to keep this competitive. I know a lot of the advanced stat guys, including college football nerds, really like Alabama, in this spot. I do as well, considering how difficult of a loss it was last week for Arkansas. But something is just telling me that if Alabama does win this game, which I think that they will, the game will be like one of these 37-27 kind of games. So I actually do like Arkansas to cover the 17.5 at home versus Alabama. So there you go. So Arkansas fans, let me know, are you actually going to pull the upset? I do think you guys cover this weekend. And honestly, it's going to be lit in Fayetteville, baby. My boy Shark from D.C. flying in for the game should be a lot of fun. Where the tailgate's going to be, that's what I want to know. I won't be attending, but still. And Alabama fans, let me know if you're making the trip, right? You're kind of in a look-ahead spot because, of course, you're playing Texas A&M, and there was a lot of juice this offseason. But, man, I'm telling you, there's few players in college football I've enjoyed watching more than KJ Jefferson. Getting crushed, and I know I dogged Matt Landers earlier. He did a good job working back to the quarterback and making this play. Good tackle by Jordan Gilbert from Baton Rouge in the open field. But, man, I am very interested to see if Arkansas's playmakers can make some things happen versus, obviously, a five-star laden Alabama defense. So let's do it. It's juicy this weekend in the SEC. I'm so fired up. We are so close. We're about to eclipse 600 subscribers. I want to try and get to 1,000 before the end of the year. I think we can do that. That is a big number in the world of YouTube. So I appreciate every single one of you, okay? It is Power Hour. I hit the mic. That was not smooth at all. SEC, boom! So there are some fun videos floating in your face right now. And tonight, keeping it simple, baby, doing some chicken strips for Joey B versus Tua. Let's go!